the physical health problems that we are having, which result from climate change. So look, for example, at the heat-related illnesses. We have had heat-related illnesses. We just talked about a lot of heat or increased temperatures, and maybe as a result of climate change. And we're talking about situations whereby today, in many parts of the world, we are having frequent and intensified heat waves. You've had heat waves which lead to a lot of risks like heat stroke or even heat exhaustions. We have had, even if you go look at the various medical reports, we've had a lot of instances, particularly in desert areas, in arid and semi-arid areas, where people suffer heat strokes more frequently. Even animals like cows and all that, they suffer from the same, or even heat exhaustion. Look at that. So that a direct physical impact of climate change. Look at the second one could be the respiratory or cardiovascular diseases. We've been talking about that. So health research records a situation where we have the cardiovascular diseases and even respiratory. They are on the increase. And why is this? So we are actually tracing this to, for example, the ground level ozones. Look at the particulate matter we're talking about, all the pollen grains. So what are they? So we are able to have chemicals that are as a result of climate change. They accumulate because of those processes we have mentioned before. If we have the particulate matter, the chemical substances that are coming around because of maybe wind that could have pushed them from far away. So you can imagine, look at even pollen grains. We have had issues like that. So what they do is that they worsen air quality or even water quality. So if they affect air quality, they could lead to diseases that we all know. Look at diseases like asthma. Look at diseases like chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases that we think about. Look at even lung cancer, for example. Look at even stroke that are nowadays commonplace everywhere. So we can sometimes trace them to the impact of climate change, even though additional research could be required to be able to prove that it is resulting from that. You can see that. And then look at the infectious diseases that we know, the vector-borne ones. So in the tropics, we have like malaria. So we all know about malaria and what causes it. And then we have the dengue fever. So many of you have been able to know that. The West Nile fever that we're talking about, the virus. And then we have the Lyme diseases. Imagine those. So when they occur, we can trace them to the changes that we can quickly associate with climate change. Look at contamination of water. When water is contaminated, what results? We look at the waterborne diseases, and we know quite a lot of those waterborne diseases like cholera, dysentery, typhoid, and all those. So if we consume particularly water that has been contaminated, and what has actually contaminated, maybe those underground ozone substances, or those particulate matter, or even those pollen grains I just been able to mention. And then look at malnutrition and food insecurity. We have situations where the floods that we are having, the drought that we are talking about, are normally devastating crop yields. When they devastate crop yields, we have the low production. We have consequential food shortage. When we have food shortages, you know what's happening. We'll have malnutrition or even undernutrition that we are talking about. Now, whenever we have had these things crippling in, then we are going to be having weak immune systems. When somebody is not well fed, they have this. Even animals, when they are not well fed, or even plants, when they are not well fed, they will technically have the weak immune system. And you know, the outcome of weak immune system will be people now become susceptible to all manner of diseases. And probably that's why nowadays people have a lot of those. Then look at the mental health impact of climate change, for example. So look at that one. Psychologists have been able to conduct various studies, and they're able to a large extent, associate some of the mental cases we have with the climate extremes. Why is this happening? Look at the fact that climate change will always come with distress. Just like we even had COVID-19. During COVID-19, people had a lot of stress. You know where stress could have come from. The thinking that we will have issues, so economy will be shut and all this, came with huge stress that has already been associated with the situations that people are feeling at the moment. So we have those psychological processes like anxiety and stress. Look at anxiety and stress. So we imagine extreme weather, and we become worried that things will be worse. So when we think about the future, it looks bleak. So then we think about situations that we are not able to control ourselves. Look at eco-anxiety, for example, the distress that we have and even the fear that we have about climate change, particularly the youth. The youth who are still very optimistic about the situation of life. If you were to tell them that something is going to make their future become unpredictable, the way climate change has made things very unpredictable, you even make them not to pursue their future engagements because they will lead to retraction of resources, for example. So look at the displacement of and loss, for example. When people are displaced, ladies and gentlemen, people who are displaced suffer a great deal of anxiety, a great deal of emotional trauma, as it were, because they have lost livelihoods. If you lose livelihood, you will be very worried. You also lose your community. You are used to your community, and now you are losing it because climate change has wiped that area, particularly by flood, or has even caused heat waves, or even volcanic eruptions that could have made you to vacate where you used to live. And even the way of life that you've been able to partake over the years has been altered. Your culture has been altered. And so a number of psychological issues will come. So we'll find augmented with the natural, maybe some diseases I've mentioned, it kind of exacerbates the situations that we are having. Look at even the social and systemic impacts of climate change on health, for example. Look at that. Look at the weakened health systems that will come as a result of climate change. It destroys healthcare facilities, for example. We have so many countries where we have been able to report floods, even in East Africa, in Africa, even in Europe, and even in Asia. You will have this. So we have disrupted supply chains, for example. Look at even health supply chain, where we get drugs or the processes that lead to production and even processes that lead to distribution and even marketing will be interfered with. Look at the power outages that we are having and the consequential impacts. Look at the way it interferes with even the service delivery of health services. So whenever a phenomenon like floods has occurred in a place, it cuts the roads, communication systems. It even leads to increased cost in medical service provision that we can quickly look at. Look at it as resulting from or causing health inequality, for example. Look at inequality. And we have been able to say that climate change affects a great deal of places or people who are vulnerable. It does affect, worsens inequality. It affects the people who live or situations that we call them the low-income, marginalized communities that we are having, because to a large extent they might be lacking the wherewithal or the resources that they can use to adapt. And that's why we are very careful about communicating climate change and how we can adapt or mitigate it, particularly for the sake of communities that are living in developing, least developed world, where systems are very low and coping mechanisms are very much slow and low. Look at economic disruptions that climate change will come with. The loss of resources, which will obviously lead to increased cost and the cost of service delivery, as it were. So look at that. And then we can talk about that. So the situation is not bad, particularly if we were to look at adaptation and mitigation that are very sensitive to health matters.